I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
That's right, Real Radio 92.1, 101.7, wherever you might be on your free download, your iHeartRadio app. We go live on Facebook as well. That's Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube going live, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday, hopefully like you normally do. It's a toll-free number to join us with your questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate. Pick up your phone. Dial 877-927-6969. Jimothy will line you up. We'll get you going. And we got a team to handle so many of your questions and concerns. Let's go ahead and get a starting lineup on this Saturday morning. A very special guest joining us for the first time today. I'd like you to say hello and good morning to AJ Holman with Touchstone Real Estate Services. Man, does he have experience through Palm Beach County up into the Treasure Coast, really South Florida for many years. And I think he's even like born and raised here. We'll get details very soon. Good morning to you, AJ. How are you?
Good morning. Doing great.
Great to have you with us, joining us on a Saturday. As we keep going around the horn here, we got one of our top agents on our Florida Talk Real Estate team. He's not out today. He's with us today. And this is a rarity, but it's always nice to say good morning to Scott Spainhour. How are you, my friend?
Johnny C., I am excellent. How are you, sir?
Very nice. You do look like you're ready to go to work, though.
You know, I had to put on a different shirt because Nancy was giving me a hard time about the T-shirt I wore on the show last time. So I made sure I had a collared shirt for you today, Nancy.
There it is. And, of course, Nancy is known as our Sergeant Holka, our big toe. She is the everything to our team. Let's keep going around the horn here. I think Roscoe Marinetz would agree. That's Roscoe Marinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. What's up, Ross?
You know, that's right. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
You know, Scott probably has like 4 open houses that he's going to squeeze in right after the show, though.
I was thinking the same thing. You know, he's like, I'll just fluff it on Nancy, not let everybody know that I work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know,
It happens to the best of us.
You got a vacation coming up, but I'm not going to bring that up again because I'll get a little envious over here. And let's all say hello to the man on the hot corner. It's my guy, Jimmy D, Jim DePola with Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. You know he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Jimmy D, how you be?
Very, very good. I don't know what that noise is as the background. If it's our production crew, if you can mute
That's the clapping.
Computer. Do you hear that crunching noise? Like that's
the clapping from Jimmy.
It's clapping.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's because I don't have my headphones on today, and my feed is a little slow today for the people who are watching on Facebook and YouTube. We're a little slow today, at least on my feed, but everybody else's feed is doing good, and that's the most important part. So that's good. Hey, we got a really good show today. I sound like, what's that guy's name? Ed something or other. We got a really big shoe. You guys don't remember any Ed Sullivan.
Oh, man, Ed Sullivan. That's just a couple years before me, Jim.
I know, way early. I know that's like 50s, but still, I was thinking Ed Sullivan. We got a really big shoe today, and the only reason why I know that is from the Flintstones.
No, you nailed it. And,
to me, that's a Flintstone reference.
The Beatles Ed Sullivan fame, right?
Well, and Elvis.
Okay, yeah.
Elvis, that's the one where they wouldn't video him from his waist down, was on the Ed Sullivan show. It was like the big deal when they wouldn't because of the craziness with his dance moves and everything.
Yeah, well, so, hey, those hips are alive.
Pumping.
I am so old. Oh, I miss Mike, not having Mike Grau here from the mortgage firm because he'd give me a lot of you know what right now. See what you get for missing the show, Mike. Mike's on vacation, so God bless him. I hope he has a good day. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. It's funny. One of the guys, Gregory, I'm so glad to see that you're on here. I just had a similar medical procedure that you did. I hope yours went okay.
Yes, I saw Greg getting ready for that yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, you saw that too? You're Facebook friends with him too? I didn't know that. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I was like, oh, been there, done that this week. So hope yours went through. But he says he remembers Ed Sullivan. So I'm not the only old fart around here listening to the show.
That's Greg O, right?
Yep,
yes.
Greg O.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about shout outs because we haven't done that in a while because we've been so busy. I'm so excited that we have AJ here today because AJ, having an appraiser on here, we have so many questions that AJ and I were testing out the computer systems, and I think we ended up talking for like 45 minutes. That was supposed to be a 10-minute.
Little over an hour, Jim.
Was it over an hour? And we could have talked for longer, I think, AJ, because we had so much to talk about at that time. So we're going to try to get as much as we can today. This is going to be a really great show. I've been waiting to try to get an appraiser on this show forever because it's very hard to get them to come on the air to talk because of the federal guidelines they have. They get so hyper about afraid that they're going to say something inappropriate. And what I'm trying to explain to everybody is we're not trying to trap you or trick you. We're here to get real information to give consumers the kind of information they need to help them do their real estate transactions, whether you're buying or selling. And right now, appraisals are a very big deal because of this frothy market we're in. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. So that's going to be very, very cool. We're also going to talk to Ross more about the crazy insurance situation we're in. Let me tell you, insurance is a big deal. We're working right now with a couple that is going, not a couple, but a person that is going to be buying in North Carolina. And when we started talking with the agent up there to help our buyer down, our buyer or our customer selling a house down here and moving to North Carolina. So we placed him with the top Keller Williams agent out there. And they've been working together now for 3 weeks behind the scenes, trying to get something lined up for him to buy when he goes up there for his new job. And let me tell you, when I started asking about insurance up there, they're like, what's the big deal about insurance? Right? It was like no big deal to them at all. It's like, what are you talking about? Worrying about the insurance rates affecting the debt to income ratio, blowing out the debt to income ratio. It's like, are you speaking Japanese? Not really. They knew what I was talking about, but they don't have those issues in that part of North Carolina. Okay. Wow, so the stuff we've got going on down here is like real news and is real news. And I can't wait till we talk to Ross about some of the stuff that's going on with that. Just a couple real quick shout outs. Paul, Francis, of course, Greg, thanks for coming on and checking out the show every single week. You guys are just stalwart, big time fans. You know, I do have a Facebook group for the Florida Talk Real Estate, and it's a private group, and you can sign up for that on the Facebook page. You guys go ahead and do that because we're going to be doing something with that private group later. These are our core fans.
Does that mean we show Elvis from the waist down?
Yeah, maybe we'll show the Elvis from the waist down. Yeah, exactly. So, so if you guys would think about it, go to our Facebook page and join that group. And anybody else that says, hey, I'm a big fan, I love this show, go ahead and join that group too. It'd be great. Okay, I'd love you to do that. Okay,
cool. And I'm guessing membership will have its privileges somewhere along the road.
Oh yeah, towards the end of the year, some stuff is going to be happening with that pretty good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so wanted to do a couple of shout outs. Scott, I was hoping that you could start off first. I know that you've had so much stuff going on. Could you talk about a couple of your success stories that happened recently, some brief rundowns?
Sure, absolutely. First and foremost, the one that comes to mind is I want to congratulate Debbie and Carlo from Port St. Lucie. They're buyers that we have been working with. I actually met Debbie and Carlo almost, I think it was 2.5, 3 years ago now. I helped them get a rental. They weren't in a position to buy at that time, so we went ahead and set them up with a rental. They got all of their affairs in order and got to a point where they were ready to buy starting at the beginning of this year. And we have been at it hard, and kudos and bless their hearts. They have been through the ringer in this market of low inventory. They fought the good fight, and it was the 8th contract that we put in. We finally got accepted, and super stoked for them. Beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Port St. Lucie with a pool. Had everything they needed, and Mike's been working with them very closely. Ross has helped us on several of the homes that we were interested in because the insurance debt to income ratio issues and the property taxes. We were having to really, really drill into every property, not just on face value, but down to the pennies on numbers to make sure that everything worked. And trying and trying again, we finally got them into contract. So Debbie, Carlo, congratulations on getting that first step going. That's a big thing for them, and I'm super happy for them and their family. And the other one this week that's kept me busy is would like to give a shout out to Frank and Nicole from Boynton Beach. They are one of what we call our seller buyers. We're in the process of helping them sell a single family home, and they're actually not moving too far. Their family is growing right now, and they're moving down the street about 8 houses to a larger house. So congratulations to them. We got them in contract on their purchase, and we just put their house on the market this past Thursday, just a couple of days ago. A beautiful 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home in Boynton Beach, right on the line of kind of South Boynton, North Delray, off of what's called Gulf Road. Near Congress. Again, beautiful home, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, renovated, barrel tile, really good community. The Estates of Silver Lakes. There's probably a little under 200 homes in that community. Just real cute, nice community, and super excited for them. Got them into contract, and hopefully this weekend we're going to be looking at several contracts on Monday to get their sale into contract.
Nice.
We just put a property on the market a couple of days on Thursday, like we always do. We usually launch them on Thursdays. So we launched our house on Thursday, and I haven't checked yet. So Lee, if you're listening, Lee's the owner. If you're listening, I got the numbers wrong. Don't shoot me later. But I believe that we have over 15 showings scheduled right now, and we had probably 6 or 7 scheduled within hours after we put the house on the market. And we did get an offer within 3 hours after we put the house on the market, but we're not going to look at any offers till Monday. But I think we're up to 15 to 20 showings right now scheduled. What kind of action are you getting on the property you just put on the market?
Yeah, we're in a little bit different price range. I'm familiar with the property that you're talking about. We're in a luxury price point, over $450. And right now, I think we've got 10 showings scheduled since Thursday afternoon when we put it on the market. So we're anticipating that to continue to pick up as the syndication of the websites go out.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Do you got anything else going, Scott?
Those are the ones that have been keeping me busy. We did have another closing this week for one of our investors, Raphael. We closed another one of his duplexes. That makes the 6th property that we've sold for him year to date.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep, he's been very loyal to us, and we've worked hard for him, and we've just got it closed. And there was several hurdles to clear in closing that most recent one, and we got it done.
Yeah, I think you just took the gold in the hurdles.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how many houses now from the recent batch, because you worked with him a while back, but the most recent batch, how many properties did he give you, and how many do you have under contract or sold already?
7, and 6 of them are sold. I've got 1 left, and we're actually negotiating 2 offers on that one right now.
Yeah, so the properties went pretty fast. These properties were not in excellent condition by any means, but because of the inventory, they were still valuable. My favorite story is the last one, the one that you're trying to sell now, Scott, that you're just trying to finish up. We put that house on the market like 2 years ago. It was on the market for a very long time. Then they took it off the market. I was like, thank God. I'm tired of that property. Looking at it, it's killing my numbers. And then when Scott got the property back, the owner wasn't upset with Scott or anything. He did a great job. It was just the price he wanted. It was a cash flow property for him. So if you didn't get the price he wanted, just keep the thing and keep making money, right?
Yeah, keep collecting rent.
So he put it back on the market. And when you put it back on the market, you put it on the same price that we couldn't sell it for the first time. But now we're getting action on it.
Yeah, and that was the case with a lot of his properties. At one point, him and his partner owned 52 rental doors total in East Lake Worth. Some were quadplexes, duplexes, triplexes. We sold about, I would say, 12 to 13 of those properties about 3 years ago. And then there was a couple, this one that we're talking about now specifically was kind of their home base. They actually ran their office out of an efficiency that was connected to that property. They had a huge storage unit on the back of that property as well. When you got 52 doors, you end up with a lot of extra washing machines and hot water heaters and all kinds of stuff. So this property was kind of their home base. And we've gone through everything, and now we're down to the last one.
Yep. Well, you did an excellent job. Congratulations on that. Just a couple other shout outs, just real quick. Congratulations to Angela, and I should call her Angie. That's her favorite name. But congratulations to Angie, and thank you to Victor. Victor is a big fan of the show, and his significant other decided that she needed to sell a property in West Palm. She works out of state, and she needed to sell the property in West Palm, so she turned to us. This story, we're going to try to get Angie on the air with us because this story is very interesting. In this case, Angie could have lost potentially $40,000 on the sale of her property if she didn't take our advice. So this is something I think that we should just talk about a little bit during the success story.
It's a lot of money.
Angie came to us with a house, and we've talked about this on the air a little bit, but now that we've closed, we could be more disclose more about the deal now that it's closed. Angie came to us. Our house was built in 1924. It was a wood frame. It's in West Palm. It's in a desirable area of West Palm, but her particular house, what do they say about buying real estate? Location, location, location. So even though she was in a good neighborhood, she was right on the edge of Broadway. So that's what I call the zoom roads, right? So there's always traffic there going back and forth 24/7. That was a problem. And then the second problem that she had is that her next door neighbor, right next to the left of her, was a funeral home. So she had an older home right near a zoom road and next to a funeral home. And believe me, I'm sorry, Johnny?
Quiet neighbors.
Yeah, very quiet.
Right.
And the funny part is Angie says that funeral home, nobody ever uses the damn thing. And I got to be honest with you, I went over there a lot over the last 4 months.
I heard they're dying to get in there, Jim.
I don't think on this one. I just think the company. I think the company's dying. I think it was the company dying on this one. But anyway, there hasn't really been a lot of traffic on there. So
every time I went over there, the parking lot was empty. I never saw anybody there.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you real numbers, but I'm going to tell you numbers that are close and that the ratios are the same, okay? So she came to me and she wanted to sell the house, let's say for $350. And I said, no, not $350. I want to try to put the house on the market for $50,000 more to $400 and see if we can get it. And she was like, well, I'm comfortable at $350. But I also knew that this is the last property. This is the last big sale of her life at her stage in her life, unless like she hits the lottery or something amazing happens. Probably this sale of this property is going to be the last big chance she has to make a profit other than the income she's making, right? And I wanted her to maximize it. She was widowed 2 years ago. And she, every dime counts to her. She's taking care of elderly parents. So we really had to make sure that we got the most money. And Victor's a big fan of the show. So Victor's like, you got to call those radio guys, see what they could do for you. So I met with Victor and Angie at the house. We went over everything. They allowed me to push the limit. So I put it up at $400. Now, we got a lot of showings, but we didn't get any offers. And most of the complaints were the location of the property or situated next to the funeral home. Nobody really said the property was overpriced because interior of this neighborhood, the houses were going, let's say if we had our house on the market for $400, they were going on the interior of the neighborhood $400 to maybe $480. Okay, so we
in that neighborhood. You would call that Old Northwoods, right? That's kind of where that was?
Yeah, it was in Old Northwood. And also, we were the cheapest home in that neighborhood. We were the lowest price home, even though we were pushing the upper limits, right? So I felt comfortable putting it at that price. But after about 20 days, we just weren't, even though we were getting a lot of showings, we weren't really getting the action we wanted. So she agreed that we could drop the price to $285. She wanted to drop it to $385. She wanted to drop it to the $350 number right away, right? So I got her just to drop 15 and we went to $385 instead of $400, right? Once we did that, we had 4 offers in 2 days. So this is one of the things I want to teach sellers. On a $300,000 or $400,000 sale, right? Dropping the price 15 grand was only 3%. And that's what got us 4 offers. But the 3% higher, we were getting nothing. So even that little bit amount compared to the purchase price or the ask price really makes a difference about whether somebody's going to submit an offer or not.
Sure.
Okay. People don't get that a lot of times. They think they could put it up at a crazy price and people are going to offer them something. It doesn't work that way. So just by tweaking it a little bit, by dropping it from 400 to 385, we got 4 offers. So we took an investor offer, which is unusual for us because the other ones were FHA or VA. They needed down payment assistance. That got me a little nervous with the condition of the house and everything. I was afraid that if we had a problem with the inspections, that they wouldn't have any money to take care of repairs or something if it was needed. So we took the investor offer, and the only reason we took it is they said they were going to do private money, which means it was effectively cash, and that they only cared about the cast iron pipe sewage. If the sewage pipes were okay, they were buying the house. They didn't care it was 1924. And the house was very well taken care of, and it had been updated. It didn't look like it wasn't a messy house or anything. It was a very good house. It's just an older home. Mm-hmm. So what happened was we took the offer. They scoped right away. Scope came out clean. Then they did their inspection, and they dragged us through the mud during the inspection and waited to the last minute. And then they wanted us to drop the price by $50,000. So the 385, they wanted to drop it to 335. My seller was so upset at that point because she was worried about the security of the unit because it was vacant because she's working out of state. She's just like, let's just take it. And I said, no, please, Angie, please don't take this offer. I know I can do better for you. And I can at least get you the 350 that you're asking for. That's the crazy town number, but I can get you more. I know I can. So she trusted me. We put the house back on the market at 285, and like 24 hours later, we got a new 385. We got a new 385. But that person was FHA. We did the inspection. It was a daughter buying the house. The husband was the father was a contractor. He didn't like the repairs on the list, so they just decided to back out. They didn't counter. They just like, we don't want the house. So then we put the house back on the market again for 285, and we ended up taking 385. I'm sorry, and we ended up taking 375. I keep saying the numbers wrong. I'm sorry, guys. And we took 375. Actually, we took 376 because they wanted a home warranty plan. So that was like $1,000. So they said, we're going to give you 276, but you're going to pay for a home warranty plan out of the 376. And then what ended up happening was the house only appraised at 375. I was off by $1,000. Mm-hmm. So we dropped the price $1,000, and she agreed to to tent the house for termites, and we closed.
Angie, she had some patience too, because, think about that. She went through 3 different buyers, 3 rough inspection reports, and, she was feeling
2 appraisals.
She was feeling beat up and ready to take that 335 offer. And I'm just so happy that she trusted us and we were able to get that third buyer in there and do what you did for him, Jim. I mean, that makes a huge difference for her.
So it was third time was the charm, Scott. Thank you. Third time was the charm for us. It doesn't always, that's very rare for us. Very, very rare. That's why we're talking about it. But it shows a lot of stuff. There's a lot of teachable moments in there. Number one, being off by 3% on the list price can make a difference of having 4 offers or no offers. That's the first thing.
Yeah, even in this market where anybody thinks I can just set a price or whatever and I'm going to get cash offers, we're telling you right now, it's not the real world for every condition.
Not all the time. And AJ's going to have a little different opinion on this, and that's what I love about this show, because he sees all I do is handle the houses I deal with every day. But AJ has a much bigger perspective, so we're going to get into that later, AJ. I promise we're going to get into all that. I know you're biting at the bit. I see your face when I'm talking.
I got plenty
It's
to
like-
say, but
I'm excited to have AJ here. This is the first time that how long have we talked about getting an appraiser to come on the
Years.
show, and we never could find anybody. So I'm
Years.
super stoked. I've got a bunch of questions, and there's a lot of myths that I'm looking forward to talking to AJ.
Yeah, me too.
You know what's
Me too.
funny, Scott? I'm only 400 yards from your house, too.
That's
No.
right. You guys live in the same
I'm at,
neighborhood.
I'm
I
at the
forgot about
southeast corner of your southwest corner of your neighborhood.
I did not know that, AJ. I met a new neighbor today.
Yep.
You're
When
not-
when AJ asked me, he goes, "Hey, I think I see one of your signs in my neighborhood," and I'm thinking, okay, because we don't do a lot of signage, and I'm like, and he said on a car, I'm like, that had to be Scott, right? So I was like, and you guys live in the same neighborhood, so you guys have to have a beer together at some point.
Yeah, we'll make that happen.
Okay,
Copper
so
point.
anyway, congratulations to Angie. Thank you for trusting us. She ended up really in real life. This is a real life story, netting $40,000 more than she was going to net by taking our advice and spending. It cost her about 4 weeks in order to make that $40,000.
10 grand a week. That sounds like Johnny Seymour.
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
sounds
I'll
really
take
good to me. 10,000 a week, I can handle that, and that's what needs to happen. So thank you so much, thank you so much, Angie, for trusting us, and Victor for being such a big fan and saying you guys got to call the radio show people. So thank you so much, and I'm going to be talking to you guys real soon.
Yeah,
Just
you
a
can-
couple other.
You
Just
can
a
call the
couple of
radio
really-
show. You can call the radio show people too if you dial 888-973-7828. You'll find that at floridatalkrealestate.com. That's your one-stop real estate shop. floridatalkrealestate.com. Join the show toll free at 877-927-6969. We'll get to your phone calls. Trust me, we will absolutely get to your phone calls. This team loves talking to the folks. We won't keep you rotting at 877-927-6969. I'm sorry, Jimmy D.
No, I'm sorry I stepped on you, Johnny. Thank you for doing that. We're going to burn the next 3 minutes, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get right into appraisals on the other side. And let me tell you, some people are going to say appraisal is pretty boring. It isn't going to be boring. It's very interesting. If you're interested in the real estate market and understanding, if you're in the process of buying or selling right now, this is going to be great information that you can't get anywhere else. I don't know where an appraiser's been interviewed on local TV or in the newspapers or anything in a long time. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry, AJ?
We try to keep our heads down.
Yeah, so it's almost like finding the hedgehog coming out to see the shadow or not, and then they crawl back in. So I'm really glad that we got the
Punxsutawney Phil with us today.
we got the opportunity here.
Nice.
So for Groundhog Day, so it's really good. But just a couple other things. Wanted to give a shout out to Marshall. He's selling his house with us in Port St. Lucie. We put the house on the market. It's already under contract. He's going to be buying a house in North Carolina. We placed him with a top agent out there. So excited that he's leaving next week to go find his new home at his new place where he's getting a new job. And on top of it, he's walking up there with a contract in hand for the sale of his house, waiting for the appraisal. And he can tell buyers up there, I need to sell my house to buy your house, but it's already under contract. And we are already in the appraisal process, so take my offer. So that makes him a much stronger buyer up there. The agent's loving it because we're doing our systems down here for what's called a seller buyer. What's a seller buyer is a person that needs to sell the house and then take that money and immediately buy a new home, preferably on the same day, or they become homeless.
We don't want that.
We don't want to make our customers homeless, so we call them seller buyers. And Marshall will not be homeless. He's going up to go find his house today. Congratulations to Marshall. A couple other people. Lee, I just wanted to say we were joking about Lee a little earlier. This is the guy that we have 15 to 20 showings already for his unit. I'm really excited. It's a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath in Lake Worth. That house is probably gone this weekend. So if you're looking for something, we have it priced at $210, but it's probably going to sell above list price. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. HOA is only, or the condo is only like $250 a month. So it's a pretty good deal.
That is.
Then let me see. I think that's it. So let's go ahead and take the break now. And then on the flip side, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get right into the appraisals. And later on, we're going to be talking to Ross about insurance. And Ross, I know people in your family have been house hunting lately. So the idea of finding out about appraisals and stuff, it might be interesting to you too. And lots of questions. So anybody wants to call live and ask questions to an appraiser, we'd love you to call on the next segment and call us live. We'd love that to happen. But if you're going to be mean to the appraiser, we're going to hang up on you. I'll tell you that. Okay. Because they have an important job to do to protect the real estate market, really, in a lot of ways. I look at them as a frontline person or profession to make sure that we don't get too frothy and that we don't, that we kind of keep an even keel.
Oh, very much so. Very important aspect. And as we've noted, a rarity in many situations. This radio show has been going on 10 years. This is going to be the first time that we're going to be able to Q&A with an appraiser. AJ Holman's with us with Touchstone Real Estate Services. Of course, Ross Camaronet's with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. We got Scott Spainhour, Jimmy D, and you. Thanks for being with us. Remember, you can always get to the entire team, your one-stop real estate shop. You have access to pros. They're experts in their field, and you can reach them all at floridatalkrealestate.com. We're on Facebook Live right now. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. On YouTube, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube, also live. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us. And wherever you may be on your iHeartRadio app, Palm Beach County, Treasure Coast, and worldwide. Great to have you with us on a Saturday. We're back 4 minutes from now. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Lots to get into. It's Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
What's a Real Radio podcast? It's Real Radio on demand. Find your favorite show at realradio921.com.
This is Doug Gottlieb. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Staples Stores.
Simone Biles will withdraw from the vault and uneven bars. Her status for the last two events is unknown. Just a few days after his official trade request, Javion Howard was forced to sit out camp Friday after an ankle injury he suffered on Thursday. And the Hurricanes could become a no-fly zone as they just brought in their third high-end corner recruit for 2022. I'm Adam Crowley.
Staples Connect has amazing prices for your back-to-school list, like Crayola 12-count colored pencils and a 10+2 Crayola marker bonus packs and Staples pencil boxes, just 97 cents each. Offer ends 9/18, limit 30. Prices may vary online. Be more than ready for school with Staples.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rao from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rao will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rao, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Kamaranet, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
You're listening to Real Radio 92.1, and we are an iHeart radio station. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Yep, that's your toll-free number, 877-927-6969. If you dial it, Jimothy's going to line you up. We'll get you on the air, handle your questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate. And we got a awesome team assembled to handle all that and more. I'm your boy, Johnny C. Thanks for being with us as we get it going on another Saturday for Florida Talk Real Estate. 2 hours of infotainment. Of course, I got great talent around me like Scott Spainhour with Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. He's part of our phenomenal Keller Williams team. Hello there, Scott.
Good morning, Johnny C. I'm going to steal Jim's thunder and say happy South Florida to you.
I love it. I've been missing it. I was hoping someone was going to squeeze it in. Ross Kamaranet is with us. Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Hello there, Ross.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter who turns 2 today.
Wow.
I can't believe 2.
Oh,
Happy birthday!
Wow.
Mine turned 8 in March, and I was like, I don't even believe this, but 2 already? 2?
2, I know, right?
Golly. Nothing like having a living, breathing calendar to make you realize that the older we get, the faster time goes, huh?
Yes, it does.
Well done, Ross. You kept her alive for 2 years. Nice.
That's the accomplishment
Yes.
really that we're celebrating. And,
I pat it my back every year. I'm like, another year, kept her alive. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. We got AJ Holman joining us for the first time today, and we're stoked to have him with us. He's with Touchstone Real Estate Services, and man, does he have a ton of experience throughout South Florida, not just being in and around the market for a long time, but as an appraiser. And it's great to have you with us, AJ. How are you this morning?
Very good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. And hello to Jimmy D. It's Jim DePola with Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. I always tell you he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Jimmy D, how you be?
Good, Johnny. I'm looking forward to having AJ on this talk today. So AJ, could you just give us a little, before we start, can you give us a little background on your real estate experience down here? And it's rare that you're born and raised down here. I think, Ross, were you born and raised down here?
I was, yep.
Yeah, so that's 2, which is really unusual to have 2 real Floridians here.
2 OGs.
No doubt.
I'm actually born and raised in Palm Beach County. I'm 3rd generation. My father actually opened up Lion Country Safari back in the day.
Really?
And, they've always been into real estate. About 20 years ago, I started doing the appraising, and we've got a local company from Palm Beach Martin to St. Lucie. And really, that's about it. All I do every day is appraise. I do about 200 to 250 of them a year, 20 years. You do the math. It's quite a bit of them. So.
That's very cool. And one of the things I want to just say is that one of the things we do on our team is once in a while we hire private appraisers for a private appraisal, not for a lender, to try to determine for whatever needs the family might have for appraisals. So sometimes they might be going through a divorce and they need to find out what the value of the home, because one spouse wants to buy out the other spouse and they got to figure out what the house is worth at this moment. Other times it might be Oh, go ahead, AJ. I'm
No,
sorry.
we do a lot of those, and especially this year, we've been doing a lot of pre-listing appraisals. I mean, the bulk of our business is lender work. We do probably 80% that way. But yeah, we do divorces, we do court appearances for estates. If there's a death in the family, you got to do a retrospective back 6 months or whatever once the accountant asks for it. So we do a lot of that type of work, and I enjoy that type of work because it's just different. You know, when you do the same thing a lot, it's nice to have some variety.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really important for the public to know, it's hard today. Even like me, AJ just did recently appraisal for us recently for a property out in the Lake Worth, Wellington area, the West Lake Worth area. And I have to tell you that I called 2 or 3 appraisers before I got to AJ. I'm being honest with everybody, and they just wouldn't touch it because they said they're just so busy. AJ likes doing the private ones, which is really important. And this is important for either consumers or for realtors, and you're looking for that type of appraiser, please give me a call. I have no problem giving you AJ's information. Our team is your team if you're a realtor, and the public. So if you just need the appraisal, you just call us up and we'll get you over to AJ, and then he'll tell you if he can do it or not. AJ also, one of the things I think is that if you felt that you weren't qualified for a type of appraisal or something, that you would say something about it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I actually have a network of about 300 appraisers around the state that can handle any type of property. I came up with that list myself by going through the records. It's the people that have been in the business the longest, the oldest license numbers. And I'm actually one of the least qualified people in the group. A lot of the guys have been doing it 30 plus years, and I'm only at 20. So
yeah, you're only at 20. You're young and at 20 years professional, right?
Yeah. And you know, when you say that, it leads me to one of my first questions about is qualifying for an appraiser. Is time in the game like the number one qualifier in your mind?
Well, I mean, really, especially when it comes to lenders, they really just look for the minimal. As long as you've got, there's an apprenticeship, you've got to be an appraiser for 2 years under somebody else. But once you have those qualifications, for the vast majority of, at least for the residential stuff, I'm a residential guy. That's really all the qualifications you need. But when it comes to more complex assignments, there's supposed to be a certain level of, if you look at it and say, okay, this is beyond me, this is something I'm not used to, either you explain that to the client and say, look, I'm going to need to bring in some help from some other people, or I'm going to need to learn a little bit more about this particular attribute. But the longer you've been in it, it's just like anything else. The longer you've been in it, the more you're able to navigate it, because it's a very subjective job. You guys know we have a lot of realtors. My joke is down here, you throw a rock and hit a realtor, it's going to bounce off them and hit another realtor. They're everywhere. Some of them are great and some of them aren't so great, and it's no different with appraising.
Yep, it's just like any profession. And we were going over some statistics either last week or the week before, talking about the average income and production of realtors in Florida and the nation. And the numbers were pretty stark, to be honest with you, AJ. Most realtors,
sure, they're all over the place.
Yeah, the prices, I mean, the income reported and stuff is pretty low for the great majority of agents. And it's a little surprising. People don't get it. And this is totally a profession where it's fake it till you make it, right? Yeah. So like if you become like an engineer or you're working in an office or something, you're not necessarily out there in the public trying to sell yourself, right? Because you're working for a company and the company does that, right? The company promotes their business. But when you're a realtor, you're promoting yourself. And when you have very little skills, and everybody starts off that way. And when you have very little experience, real life experience, you're actually taught to puff yourself up a lot more in this profession than other professions that I've experienced. And I always joke it is fake it till you make it. I mean, even this show, when we started this show 10 years ago, I started with a guy named Rob, and I think collectively between both of us, we had done 4 deals. When we went on air, right? We went on air. We had done 4 deals, but you know what? We never lied to this audience, not one time. And Johnny will remember this. When we started out, what did we say, Johnny? We said, look, we can't tell you we're the biggest agents around. We're not going to tell you we have a ton of production, because we didn't, right? What we said is we're full-time, we're hard workers, we're highly trained, and we're going to fight for your rights, because a lot of people were negotiating for short sales with banks at that point. And it's like, we're going to fight for your rights and get the best we can do. And then as we grew and we did become top producing agents, that's when we said we were top producing agents on the show. So if you're hearing it now, it's not fake it till you make it. We're part of the lucky ones that actually made it. Okay.
That's right.
So, but we never
It's amazing.
The audience.
It's amazing how quickly somebody who's been in the industry can cut through that. Like we talked about a little bit last week, that when I interview an agent about why they made an offer at a certain price or what comps they considered or their reasoning, it's apparent within moments of whether or not they've done their homework and how good they are at it.
I have a quick question.
But for the layman, it's really hard. You know, it's not so easy to spot somebody that's maybe a little out of their league on something.
Absolutely. Ross?
Jim, so kind of how close are you on your numbers usually?
Well,
like if you're like, okay, hey, I did my CMAs and I think this house is going to appraise for 375.
I'm going to let Scott kind of give me a perspective on that, because he sees a bigger, I'm in the weeds every day, and Scott lists with me all the time. I mean, Scott does a lot of listings for our team. And by the way, I forgot to do this shout out, and I wanted to do it, so I'm going to do it now. Congratulations to Scott. I'm so happy for him, because Scott has now this year, only 7 months into the year, has become our top producing agent for a single year. And he did it in 7 months. He's beat out everybody else. There was a guy named that I still love to this day, Mike Stone. And Mike Stone was one of our top buyers agents back many, many years ago. And
he's
twice
still cranking, by the way.
Almost hit this number.
Yeah.
But Scott did it in 7 months. And I'm so proud of Scott. And it's going to cost me money, and I don't want to get into that. But I'm more than Scott made sure that he knew that when he hit a certain level, he gets I'm going to call it a bonus. Okay. And he right away said, hey, I'm going to get that bonus. I need that bonus because I hit my number. And I'm like, that's going to be the most happy check I cut all year long, right? Is going to be that check. So congratulations, Scott. And it's because of all the hard work. Scott has worked so hard over the last 7 months. And I've seen him mature so much and grow so much. So congratulations to you. Deserve it. And you deserve much, much more. I can't wait to see you grow more. This is not a ceiling. This is a new floor. And now you're just going to work off of that. So congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
New floor, no pressure.
Yeah,
really?
right?
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Talker. So just
yeah. Well, you caught me off guard. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but I had some good mentors and good teachers in yourself. And getting back to the appraisal and off of the subject of me for a second, to answer Ross's question towards Jim, Ross, you asked how close he is when evaluating a property. One of the skills that I think certainly comes with time and experience. You get better and you get better and you get better at it. Jim taught me, I came to the team, previously having been on my own for a short period of time, only for 6-8 months. And the beginning of my real estate career, I was on my own. And then I joined the team and I thought that I knew how to comp a property correctly. And, sitting down with Jim and learning how to run those numbers and see how he does it was so much more involved than what I thought that I knew. And, a lot of that just comes with time and experience. And from what I can tell, all of the transactions that I've been a part of and around Jim, he's usually pretty spot on, Ross, with his valuations. And it's, we say appraisals and valuating a property is not all science. It's certainly not. There's a lot of art to that. Mm-hmm. You could have 3 people, 3 appraisers or 3 agents doing CMAs or brokers price of opinions on a property, and most of the times you're going to get 3 different numbers, and that's just the reality of it. So I'm super interested to get some of those questions to AJ about what are the biggest differences and that causes one appraiser to have a different opinion of value versus another? You know, you guys are looking at the same comps. Is it a condition thing? What do you think, AJ, is the reason one appraiser has one number and then the same appraiser goes in the next day and has a different number?
Well, I think you mean a different appraiser comes in the next day.
Yeah, yes, correct.
A few reasons. Number one, the experience level we talked about. When you say we're looking at the same comps, hopefully we will all come up with the same comps, because there'll be, 3 to 5 to 7 comps that are clearly the most obvious ones to use. But more often than not, that's not what happens. It's very subjective on which comps you use. Even Jim and I were going over, what qualifications we use to try to come up with an appraisal, which comps we're going to use. And like right now, I was just researching a property last night, and I look at different criteria. You want to stay plus or minus 20% on the living area. You want to be within a certain age range, within a certain construction type, within a certain location proximity. But right now, with prices going up as fast as they are in many of these markets,
how do you keep up?
You don't want to do time adjustments if you can help it. Every adjustment we do makes the thing less accurate or looser. So because it's an estimate, right? If I say a pool's worth $30,000, that's something I'd market extracted, and hopefully I'm very close to what the value of that pool is. But at the end of the day, that's an estimate. So the more adjustments I do, the more estimates I've made, and the less accurate it's going to be. Ideally, of course, you go in there. Hopefully I had 3 sales in the last 30 days and they're all identical to the subject property. But unless I'm in Sandalwood, it's not going to happen, So what we end up doing is finding a lot of comps. You might see 3 to 7 in the report, but we might have looked at 15 or 20 or more. And a couple of the comps might reflect a certain thing that we're trying to show, like what the price per square foot is. A couple of them might be very recent, and maybe they're not as close in living area or age, but they're very recent. So that really matters a lot right now. And then I'll have a couple more comps in there that maybe bracket the lot size or an attribute like a pool. And then we put all of those in there. And when you've been doing it a while, once you throw all those into the report, it really starts to make sense to you. One of them might come in really high. It might reflect a higher number, and you say, well, why is that? So maybe then I'll call the agent and say, hey, you're falling in a little high. Was there something really nice about this property that I'm missing? Or
Jay, let me ask you a question about that. You just mentioned that you call an agent. As a listing agent, I get those phone calls from appraisers on properties that I've already closed, and they'll ask, hey, I see that you sold 123 Main Street that closed last month. Was there any seller concessions involved? This, that, and the other thing. I'll get some questions from appraisers. Is that something that every appraiser does and digs that deep? Because when I get that phone call, it tells me this guy's taking the time to do it right.
Well, it used to be, before they added the concessions field into the MLS, I was calling on every comp up until, I don't know, when did they add that? Maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time period, like, if there's a lot of concessions in the market in general, right now there's not, right? I mean, for the most part, people aren't adding that in. But now I only call if I have a question. If something, like, perfect example, we talked about converted living areas, Jim. Working on one right now where it's got a big Florida room. It's got an addition. Some of that stuff's not showing on public record. So in that neighborhood, what's really important is that normal for the market in that community. So the one that I'm working on right now, it is very common. So I'm going to end up calling probably every realtor for the comps that I use, and I'm going to go over that floor plan and say, okay, you said it's 1,700 under air, but public record shows 15. Is this Florida room really, real living area or not? But to answer your question, again, it's just like the realtors. It depends on the appraiser and how thorough they are, and maybe how complex the assignment is, and if those attributes are a little hard to nail down.
So I'd like to start. I'd like to start with the foundation because we have so many questions. Everybody's just going to go over all over the place.
I'm going to jump all over the place.
Let's just start from basic 101 and then build up to the other stuff. Okay. So the first thing is, this is the most common thing. Okay, you get the call or you've called somebody and they say, "Hey, I'm interested in selling my house." So you sit down with them. You've already done the comps. If you've done it right, like our team, right? You've already done the comps before you get there. You've asked the owner a couple of questions. Is anybody frozen right now? Or is it just me? Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm sorry because my computer's acting up. So you ask the questions. You try to find out conditions, see if there's any unusual improvements or anything that's a positive attribute that might not reflect on computer stuff. Or any bad stuff. Like I just met somebody yesterday where their whole bathroom is missing in the it's down to copper pipes on the floor and that's it. Okay, so that's going to affect the property. So you try to find all that stuff out and then you go out there and then the owner says this, "Oh, I know my house is worth 500 because I know the person down the street, they sold it for 500 and my house is so much better than that house," right? So I'm like, okay, well, let's go look at it. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is when I go to pull it up, it's not there. And I go, "Well, what do you mean the house right around the corner?" "Well, it's just around the corner. Do you have the address, please?" "No, I don't have the address." Then I start digging and I find out that house was on the market for 500, but it sold for 465 and it was 8 months ago. Right? And my comps, I try to keep my comps 6 months or newer. Unless I have to go back longer than that, because 6 months, especially in today's market, 6 months is an eternity.
Yeah.
Usually I do 3 months if it's a super hot neighborhood, lots of sales, even before this craziness.
Yeah, but in today's market, isn't that house now worth 750?
Yeah, right. Well, we're gonna use an example of that. We're actually gonna use an example of that, Ross, of a crazy thing that happened in this one neighborhood I was looking at for one of Scott's buyers. So what happens is the owner's like, so the owner has this attitude that because they heard that somebody put their house on for 500 and it's not being marketed anymore, that it must have sold for 500. Well, no, that was the list price. It sold for less and it was 8 months old. And on top of it, what we find out is that house is 400 square foot larger. It has a pool. You don't have a pool. It's on the water. You don't have the water. I'm just making up, examples. And then all of a sudden, if you back all that stuff out, that 465 is really now 385. I'm just making it up, right? Based on square footage and everything else and go, yeah. So based on that sale, if you want to use that house as the sale, your house is worth like 385 in this example, right? And they're like, "Oh no, I want 500. And I'm like, well, if your house was 400 square feet larger and it had a pool and it was on the water, you'd be in that ballpark, but you don't, right? And people don't think that way. And square footage is huge to me, at least when I'm comping. Square footage is very important to me. There's a big difference between somebody buying a 1,200 square foot home and a 1,600 square foot home, okay? Yeah. There's a different floor plan. It feels different, usually, a 16, unless it's like converted a million times, and we talked a little bit about that, where people convert a Florida room in the backyard and then they convert the garage into living space, and now all of a sudden it's 1,600 square feet, but it was really a 1,200 square foot house with 400 square feet of conversions, right? So there's a big difference, though, between a 1,200 and a 1,600 square foot home and how people view that when they're going to go shopping for homes. So it isn't just how many bedrooms you have. It's also the living square foot is really important. Like if I look at houses that are 4-bedroom and they're 1,200 square feet or less, there's chances that somebody converted something somewhere, right? They usually didn't make 4-bedroom houses that were 1,200 square feet.
It seems small.
Because the bedrooms would be so. Am I wrong about that, AJ?
Well, yes, but it depends on the neighborhood. You know what I mean? If it totally, and that's almost all these questions today are going to be answered the same way. It depends on the submarket. If in that community it's very common and it's acceptable to the market, then that's what we consider. But like the living area where you were just talking about, we have a lot of guidelines that are not hard fixed rules, but they are things we like to stick to. And one of those is 20% on the living area. So if your place is 1,200, that's another 240 square foot of living area. So anything under 1,500 is more of what we're going to look at as opposed to something that's 17 or 18. We always try to stick close, but 20% on the living area is one of those guidelines we'd like to stick to.
That's a good figure, Johnny.
He's really touching on something that I think a lot of people struggle with, sellers struggle with, over improving your home. So you can massively over improve your home for the community, the expectation of your neighborhood. And if you're doing that, you're not getting the return on your investment. If you're selling that property dollar for dollar, as AJ's noting, you're out of the norm of the neighborhood. So you can't quite comp you the way you want to because your value's not there. Am I touching on it?
Yeah,
AJ?
yeah.
Well, we had two examples we talked about, AJ, about that. So let's get into those two. Number one was that super duper expensive pool.
Right. I was just going to say pools are the best example right now because, up until, 5 or 10 years ago, pools were in a certain price range. And right now, they can be really expensive. So I had a house in the acreage a long time ago, probably 15 years ago. And I went out there and this guy had a $100,000 pool.
Nice.
And I believe that it was a $100,000 pool, but his house was only worth about $300,000. So anytime you reduce the number of buyers, likely buyers, then that thing's going to lose value. Not many people want a pool that nice that are going to pay $100,000 for it on a house that's $300,000. Now, if it's an $800,000 house, and a $100,000 pool is more appropriate. Mm-hmm. So it's when people do things that aren't appropriate for the neighborhood or for the submarket, that's when you lose that money, and I tell people that all the time. They go, oh, well, should I put in the kitchen? Well, okay, a kitchen can run anywhere from $20,000 to, $150,000. It depends. You need to do something appropriate for your submarket.
Right. And the other example that we used besides the pool for over improvement was
I think it was kitchen.
Yes, the kitchen. So this is one of my favorite things, right? I go into a house. I know that the houses, if they're in really, really, I'm making this up, really, really good condition, they're worth $300 to $350. Okay. And then I go in and this person wants $400 for their house because somebody else in the neighborhood bought their house, sold their house for $350. But this person has the person that wants to sell it now has a super duper Mac Daddy kitchen that they just put in. And they're like, well, I put in an $80,000 kitchen on a $300,000 house. Not many people are going to spend $80,000 on a $300,000 house just for one room, right? So At that point, you're going to get value for the upgraded kitchen. There's no doubt about it. But are you going to get $80,000 or more? Probably not in a $300,000 house. They're going to give you a credit, but they're also going to say, when you put in that super duper expensive $5 million year old fossil stone countertop, okay, that's 5 million years old, like Frank McKinney would put in his mansions down here, right? And it's $125 a square foot, or you could buy granite that's customary in the neighborhood for $35 to $50 a square foot. They're not going to give you extra credit because you got fossilized stone granite in your countertop in a $300,000 house. That's personal enjoyment.
Right.
You did it because you enjoy it.
And that's one of the biggest things about a realtor, the way a realtor looks at something versus the way an appraiser looks at something like that is, people always want to know what they can do to prepare for the appraisal. If you've got something really nice, if you've got an attribute that's really nice, an appraiser's got to prove, they've got to statistically show that that thing is worth money. So if you have that pool or if you have that kitchen that's much nicer, the realtor should be looking really hard to find a comp that sold for a lot more that had that same attribute. And if you can't find that comp, maybe it's an over improvement. Maybe nobody else does that. Even if I've got to go back 2 years and find that same situation, at least then I'm showing conformity to market. I'm showing that there are people in the neighborhood that do it. And then I'm not maybe going to use a dollar for dollar comparison, but I'll use a percentage. This home sold for 10% more than normal, and it had this incredible kitchen. And yes, it was 2 years ago. So I don't put that comp in the report. But for underwriting, I'm going to say, look, this is how much money I gave it, and this is why. And you've got to prove it. And if you don't do that, it won't make it out of underwriting, and then nobody's going to get the loan.
Mm-hmm.
AJ, you were just saying preparing for an appraisal. So when I did a refi, Jim was, telling me, hey, make sure you're giving a list, make a nice list to give the appraiser, like highlight all the things I've done, the impact windows, new AC inside out, new ductwork, a new fence, highlight all the things that I've done to improve the home since I bought it and give it to them and then let them do their thing. Two-part question. Is there a tremendous value in doing that from your perspective, or do you appreciate it? Or is there almost like you're sliding them in a way, like, oh, I don't, just in case you miss this stuff here, look at this. I think there was value in it. Jim felt like there was value in it, but what from an appraiser, an experienced appraiser, how do you feel about a prep sheet for what you've done to the home?
I've got no problem with that, but like most things in life, it's the way you approach it. Number one, yes, writing it down. One thing is, in these reports, we have to estimate or put down exactly, if we know it, for the kitchens and the baths when they were renovated. So if you know that you did a renovation in 2015, having that documented somewhere is helpful for us. If you did a really big remodel and you paid a contractor and you've got the receipts, yeah, throw a photocopy of that in there. This is the date that we did these things. This is what we did to the property. If you type all that up, print it up, hand it to them, say, hey, this is just for you. I know you know what you're doing, but, we just put this together. I'm never going to be offended by that. It's all the way you say it, know, and of course there are jerks out there. And I've heard many stories of people saying, well, the appraiser got mad when I did this or that. There's jerks in the world, But if you print it up and you hand them the piece of paper, maybe when I'm sitting there later on typing, and I'll pull that out when I get to the condition section of the report. I'll pull that paper out, make sure I'm not missing anything, and because we're fallible. Maybe I got distracted and missed something, and it's helpful.
So it can't hurt.
No, it can't hurt. And what else would you say you do to prepare for an appraisal?
All right, I actually have written down some blogs on these to help me remember. Well, it kind of brings me, actually, I want to talk about the top 5 condition issues. I went through all my reports, all of them, and looked at, this was a couple of years ago, to see what my most common things that I flagged were. And things that you flag are all things that are going to be negatives, and create problems for the report. So number 1 is wood rot and dry rot.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got any of that at your house, especially the corner, your soffits, the fascia, that starts to give you that negative impression of the home. Ceiling issues, any watermarks. If you had an air handler that leaked 5 years ago, there's nothing wrong with patching that up or painting it. You're not hiding anything. It's been fixed long ago. But I don't know the difference. For all I know, that water stain's a month old, and that's going to start creating questions in my mind. Water heaters should comply with local zoning code if you don't have a pressure release valve and a downspout. And paint issues. Yes, pre-1978, if it's flaking or it's doing things like that, that's a problem. But what I see a lot of times is somebody will do a repair to a piece of fascia and they won't paint it. Well, that's just as bad. That's not environmentally sealed. It's not protected, and that piece of wood's going to rot. And all of those things are all signs to me that you're not maintaining your home very well, and they're going to make me look at it harder. So number 1 is remove those kind of negatives, any electrical wires that are out, that kind of thing. Otherwise, we don't care about clutter. The homes that we're in, 90% of the time, the people are moving. I don't care about boxes or furniture or any of that. I don't even notice it. I'm looking at walls, floors, countertops, appliances, the age of things, how well it's maintained.
What about smells? What if you got a real pet odor in the home? Does that affect?
Well, I'll tell you the biggest one is if it smells like urine, I'm going to start wondering if it's a meth house. And I've only run into a few, but it's so extreme, you know it. Like you know something was wrong. I was calling other appraisers as soon as I left my first one. And I said, this smells like cat urine so bad that I think something's wrong. And then I read afterwards that that's because of meth. And sometimes, it can be.
Yep.
Otherwise, general smells, I don't know. It's not really going to be a problem, other than me maybe rushing through the job a little more.
See, and so what I do for customers, AJ, is I tell them to please do keep the house decluttered and to make sure, hopefully we're already dealing with the smells in order to sell the house anyway, right. And that's been cured. But we tell them that we want the appraiser to have a good experience in the house, because it's almost like the buyers. What I tell people is the longer the buyers stay in the house, the better chance you have of them turning in an offer, because they feel comfortable enough to be there. But if they're uncomfortable, if the place is dark or it's too cluttered and they're afraid they're going to knock something over, or if the house is stinky, right? Or if things are grimy, when the appraiser's in there, just like regular people, they want to get the hell out. And you just said that. AJ just said that. I want to get out there as quickly as I can. So you want them to have a good experience. So when they're going back and they're trying to do the appraisal, now I'm not asking you to comment on this. This is my opinion, AJ, okay? But when he's sitting down, when the appraiser's back in the office and actually crunching the final numbers, if they had a good experience with the house and they didn't have any urine smells or, afraid that it's a meth house or the people you could just care that they didn't take care of the house and they just don't seem like they care. It's just like they want to get rid of it. If they're trying to decide if it's going to be 325 or 330, I'm just making it up or something like that. And really close skin of her teeth appraisal. I feel like just psychologically having the good experience might actually push it over the edge as opposed to the bad experience, because it's easier when you have a bad experience of something, just saying, I don't care about this. I'm just going to give them what I give them. I'm going to still stay with the standards, within the standards, but I'm going to go the other way. Right.
No, so for sure. We get impressions just like anybody else. Man, my cat's having fun.
I know, that's so cool.
we get impressions just like anybody else. If it's, if we walk away with a negative impression compared to what it could have been, then of course it's going to be I'm not going to say we're going to come in lower on the value, but we're human, and it's going to create an impression. But what I'm talking about, it's always the people that have an immaculate, perfect house that have a bunch of boxes stacked up because they're moving, and they're so worried about those boxes. Yeah. That I really don't care.
Yeah, of course, right, of course, because the professional is going to look past it. Go ahead, Scott.
So I don't know if I want to change subjects just a little bit. I have a question for AJ as far as, and this is really for agents and for sellers and buyers too. People talk about, sellers oftentimes are afraid of FHA or VA offers compared to a conventional loan offer. Talk to us about the difference of how an appraiser approaches a buyer when you're going to do an appraisal that was ordered from a mortgage company that the buyer's using a mortgage, and it's a VA FHA appraisal versus a conventional loan appraisal. How are those approached differently? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, and that's a real common subject for me to talk about. First, let me say I'm not a VA appraiser. It's just a different qualification, and I've never done it. I am an FHA appraiser. I've done probably thousands of those. I do not prepare any differently for an FHA appraisal than I do for a conventional.
Exactly.
Good to hear.
It used to be back in the day, 15 years ago, the property requirements for FHA were more strict than conventional. But what happened probably right around the bust from, 07 or whatever, the conventional lenders, they increased their requirements a little bit, and FHA decreased theirs a little bit. And what I mean by that is those 5 condition issues that I just mentioned, those are going to flag whether it's a conventional or an FHA. If you've got peeling paint on a pre-1978 house, the conventional lender is going to require it to be repaired just like the FHA would. If you've got open exposed electrical that's going to be a potential safety shock hazard, the conventional people are going to want that taken care of, just like the FHA.
So what I'm hearing is sellers should not be afraid of an FHA offer compared to a conventional loan offer. I've had some sellers that were so concerned about it that they were willing to take a lower conventional loan offer just because they didn't want to take the FHA offer. And I was trying to explain to them exactly what you're explaining now. They're really not approached that much differently anymore.
It's actually not for me at all. When myself or my partner, if we go out and do an appraisal and the lender calls a week later and says they want to change it to FHA, there's literally nothing that's going to change in my report except for the addendum. It should be the same. Now, again, there's a whole variety of appraisers out there. Are there appraisers that are more concerned when they're writing an FHA appraisal that it might get reviewed more stringently? There might be, but as a realtor, I would not worry about it. I would not. It should be a very low instance of that happening. And again, from my standpoint, the number is going to be 100% the same. There is no difference.
And I know you mentioned you're not a VA appraisal, but I have worked with several VA buyers that have earned that benefit for serving our country, and God bless them and thank them for that. They've earned that benefit of, having a VA loan, 0% down. And oftentimes several of the VA buyers I've worked with, they were more qualified as far as debt to income ratio, liquid cash in the bank. They ran their lives like a military person and was in good financial condition, more so than the conventional guy that I was working with. And yet people think, sellers think, oh, VA, I got to worry about the appraisal. Oh, they're putting 0% down. That means that they may not have the cash. And oftentimes that VA person's stronger than the other one to start with.
I agree, Scott, and it's infuriating to me. I see that if I'm ever on Facebook and I see that in the forums, I always try to shut it down. It's discriminatory, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
It's really annoying. And that VA buyer that military service person has got just as much right to that house, and it's very frustrating to me to see that. But I agree with what you said.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm experiencing a lot of it on the FHA side because our inventory in the market is so low, and I do have a couple of buyers I'm working with right now that are strictly FHA. And when a seller's looking at 10 offers on the table, he's got 2 cash, 5 conventional, and 3 FHA. It seems like it's been a challenge for me lately to get the listing agent and the sellers to even look at my FHA offer when they got 5 conventional and 2 cash to compare it to. And, that's a struggle that we're facing. And I just wish I could get that point across to the public that don't shy away from an FHA or a VA buyer. They may be just as well qualified. Dig a little deeper, ask some more questions.
I agree. And I think maybe, I see that as well. And I think you're either dealing with, lesser experienced realtors or realtors that are maybe have been in the game a long time and are thinking back to that time 20 years ago.
Yeah, they haven't.
It was more of an issue.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that we really impress upon on our team, AJ, is staying with the times and changing with the market.
Yeah.
There was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, Scott said to me, because it's been really tough for the buyers, and he was just having a frustrating moment. He's like, man, he was, complaining about the market itself. And I said, you've never been in that really bad market that me and AJ have been in, right? So we've been in the market, during that boom and bust period from 03 to 06, and then 06, the climb back to 2015, 10 years of hell trying to get everything worked out. And this market in some ways is not a bad market. It's not fun for the buyers, but, Scott proves day in and day out, and our team proves in day out, we still get our buyers houses that they love at prices they can afford, even in today's market, even when you have to turn in 8 offers before you get your buyer into a contract. And that house that Debbie is buying, she's really happy with that house, right? The 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage with the pool.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what she wanted, right? That's what she was looking for.
Yeah, they had to have a pool, and it was a challenge, just the inventory. And again, they stuck with it, and we finally got them into contract.
But they got it right, and they're going to be really happy in that house. So they're not sacrificing. It isn't like our buyers are saying, holding their noses up, and saying, okay, I'm going to buy this because I have to buy something. That's not happening with our team. Our team, the people are excited about the houses they're buying, and they want to live there.
You can reach out to the whole team. Florida Talk Real Estate is a .com. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com is your one-stop real estate shop. And you'll even see the hotline there. You can call that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A live body will answer it, get you lined up at 888-973-7828. Again, you'll find it at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
So let me go into this. Okay, so I'm going to use this real life example of something that happened recently, right? I have a buyer that called up, or a seller through Johnny, said, well, if I could get a certain number for the house, I'll sell it. So Johnny asked me to comp it. And when I did the comps, I was like, wow, I haven't seen this in a while. So let me tell you about this situation. Gated community, the highest sale in the neighborhood is 460. Okay, highest sale. Next highest sale is like 440. And the next highest sale after that is under 400. So the 460 and the 440 are stratospheric for this neighborhood. Okay, not the norm, and super high outliers. Okay, then I look at the pending, and the pending shows 675, 675, 770. So then I'm like, wow, this neighborhood must have an estate section and then a more regular section. So I look at the neighborhood and I'm like, I'm not seeing that. Then I'm like, wow, these houses must be much bigger than the $460,000 sale. Nope. Then I was like, oh, mine must be on the water and have a pool. Well, so did the other ones. Okay. So now we have a high sale for the neighborhood of 460, and we have a 675. And I started checking the pendings. It's like, well, how did this happen? How did all of a sudden we jump from 460 to $200,000 more overnight? How did that happen?
Yeah.
So I went and looked, and I saw the first agent, and they put it up at 675, and it was the same square footage as the house I was trying to sell, right, or thinking about selling. And then I saw that 2 weeks later, somebody with the identical unit for the 675, they put their house on the market for 675. Then somebody with a house that was 400 square feet smaller put their house on the market for 770. They all sold within 2 weeks. They all went under contract within 2 weeks. Now, we don't know the price that they contracted at, but I assumed it was very close to the ask price because of the short period of time it was on the market. So then I checked the agents' backgrounds to see how much production they've been in, because I'm thinking maybe these guys are super sophisticated and they know something I don't about this neighborhood. So then when I checked the stats, the guy that put the first 675, he's done like 6 deals in the last, from what I can see, he's done like 6 deals in 2 years. So I call him up because I saw that house was supposed to close. This all happened this week. It was supposed to close like 3 weeks ago, but it's not closed yet. It's still pending. So I call up the agent. Ring, ring. Hey, this is Jim from Keller Williams. I'm hoping you can do a professional courtesy to me. I'm thinking about listing another property in the neighborhood. I'm not competing with you because you're already under contract, but I see you haven't closed yet. Is there a problem? Yeah, there's a problem. Well, what's the problem? Appraisal? I'm thinking to myself, yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, what happened? He goes, the stupid appraiser, they didn't give us the appraised value.
The stupid appraiser.
Right? And I go, yeah, well, I noticed that the highest sale in the neighborhood is 460, but you put your house on the market for 675. Is that what you took? Yeah, I took 675. I go, what did it appraise at? He goes, 540. $135,000 less than he took for the contract. So then I said, well, what the heck happened? That's not a good day for anybody. It's not good for the buyer. It's not good for the seller. You know, what happened? He goes, oh, we dropped it down to the appraised value of 540. And they were closing later this week, because I called them earlier in the week, and they were closing like on Thursday or Friday. I didn't see if they closed or not. But that means that seller put their house on the market for 675 because that realtor said it was okay to do that. They did get the 675, so you can't blame the realtor for that part.
Yeah, really.
Right? But then it only appraised at 540, and that's what they closed at. Now, most sellers are going to be pretty peeved that they, in their mind, they lost $135,000 on that deal, even though
sure.
that was not a real number in any way. And the other thing I found surprising about that is that they got 540. The highest sale in the neighborhood was 460, and they still got 540.
Well, how about that it appraised at 540? Like, that's the part.
That's what I'm saying, that they got 540 for the appraisal, even though that the highest sale in the neighborhood was 460.
Right.
So then the other thing is, I said to the other inexperienced agent that did this deal, I said, man, I feel so bad for those other two buyers for 675 and 770, because when your comp comes out at 540, it's going to cream them. They're going to get creamed because now we have a really recent sale of identical unit, no difference between two of the units. The two 675s, they looked identical. And now you got a 540. There's no way they're going to be able to justify a 675 appraisal if it's contingent upon appraisal. So my question to you, AJ, that's a real life example. And we're in this crazy frothy market right now. And what I'm wondering is how, like, is that, do you hear anything in there that either raise a red flag or go, nope, that's the way it is in today's market? And how could they get the 540 when the highest sale was 460?
Well, okay, it's kind of like I was talking about as far as time. How old were the 470 sales? Were they 6 months old or 3 months old or a year old?
Oh, good question. You know, the sales like the 460 and the 440, and then the one that was at 400. And then after that, they all cluster. They were all May, June, maybe not May, June, maybe a little bit, very recent sales. I mean, fresh, hot off the market, because those were the highest sales, because we're getting the highest sales in the neighborhood right now. So that 460 was like 3 weeks old, that 460.
And I don't know how he got to the 540.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of times people will ask us, well, realtors look from today forward, right? What's the market doing? What's it going to be tomorrow? What are my pendings? Appraisers look from today backwards. What happened yesterday? What happened last month? What happened 2 months ago? We also look at pendings and we also look at actives. But like in this situation, I can't wait. I can't consider those pendings. I'll put them in there to show that, hey, the market is trying to make a big jump here. But I've got to go off sales, closed sales, statistics.
So that would be called an inclining neighborhood, right? So in the appraisal report, in this example, you would say that this is an inclining neighborhood, right? Because we had 400, then 440, 460, and now we got these crazy pendings.
Yeah, I put in there it's rapidly increasing. I'm sure there's a shortage of inventory. I'm sure there's a high desirability to the neighborhood. But I always say, people say they're willing to pay more for a house, but they're really willing to borrow more usually.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's a good point.
If they were willing to pay more, they'd walk in there with the 670, throw it down in a big pile of cash, and then nobody would have a problem.
Let me throw in the layman term question that I think goes along with this from a layman's standpoint. So the seller says, okay, I've got 5 offers in front of me. All of them are way above what the neighborhood says that the property should be worth. In that seller's mind, he's thinking something's worth what somebody's willing to pay. You've heard that before 100 times.
Yep.
So with this rapidly increasing market, low inventory, there are a lot of buyers willing to pay above appraised value right now.
Yeah.
Do appraisers, because you said we don't look forward, we look backwards. Do appraisers take into account if a seller's got 5 offers and 5 people willing to pay? I mean, does that factor at all?
Not very much. It's there. It obviously shows the demand. But what would be more important to me on this would be the pendings. Okay? If there's these pendings that are in the 6s, I'm going to call those realtors. Now, if one of those realtors says, look, we're closing next week, it's a cash deal, this is going to close, then I'm going to give that some weight. But what's probably going to happen is I'm going to get the same answer Jim just did. Well, we've got a problem with the appraisal. It's going to close for a lot less. So now that one's closing for $100,000 less. If I would have considered it at a 650 valuation as a comp, it really closed for 550 in the end.
Right.
Or that's where it's going to be.
Right.
So we consider it, but we can't. Number one, we say one sale doesn't make a market. Just because one fool was willing to go in there and pay some ridiculous price doesn't mean the whole neighborhood just went up $180,000. But if you've got 3 people that are willing to do it, if they're solid buyers, if they've waived their appraisal contingency, a lot of it's subjective. It depends on what the realtors are telling me are going on with the pendings. Because those people all made offers, all those offers that they got, they were all contingent on financing. And if the financing's not going to, that's what I meant about people aren't willing to pay more, they're willing to borrow more. Now, if they told me that every one of those offers waived their appraisal contingency and they had cash, which really right now, this time's a lot different than the last time. The last time stuff ran up like this, everybody was leveraged out the wazoo and they were only putting down 3%. And this time people are saying, okay, I did one the other day. There was no appraisal contingency on a $750,000 purchase. If I had appraised that home at $500,000, that guy would have brought an extra $250,000 cash, and he had it.
Wow.
It's different now than it used to be. So if you get 2 or 3 people that are willing to do that, then you're going to jump the neighborhood that much. And I'll say, yes, the neighborhood is worth more now. But just have people willing to borrow the money that they can't really realistically borrow doesn't make it worth it.
Well,
Jim, before you do, though, because I want to tie on to what he's saying, that people are willing to pay. See, this is the part I struggle with in appraisal, and I know it's not a science, but Scott gets to people are willing to, something's worth what they're willing to pay for. So if we just get a bunch of people that are just going to throw it, whatever it takes to get homes, your value goes up in your mind because they're willing to overpay. And that's where I struggle in the marketplace.
Well, but it's not overpaying.
It's not overpaying.
If they're all the buyers that are out there are willing to pay cash at a higher price level, then that's what it's worth.
Yeah. Ugh. But it has to be more than one person, Johnny. There has to be a trend there.
Right.
So it isn't just one crazy person. Like he said, one crazy person can't just throw off the whole market based on appraisal practices.
Oh, I understand.
But if you have 3 or 4 people all doing it at the same time, you're kind of going through a trend there, and that's how they do it. But it can switch just as quickly.
Right.
If the prices start going back down again, it's going to go the other way too. So it could go up, but it also could go down the same way.
Yeah, so all of a sudden we're at 6% interest rates and nobody's throwing money around anymore. Well, now your value's gone because people aren't spending. That's the part that I struggle with the most, because the house should be worth what it's worth, whether somebody's willing to overpay or not.
But it's not what somebody's willing to do. It's what the average buyer is willing to do. And that's part of the market definition. It's worth your time to look at the definition of market value in an appraisal report sometime. Because it's again, the one sale doesn't make the market. But if the average buyer is willing to pay $100,000 more than what the last one sold for, and there's 5 people, like my neighborhood, which you're in, Scott, the townhomes in here for my model, the last 5 sales up until 5 months ago were all at $285, every one of them. The next sale went to $290, then it went to $300, then it went to $340, then it went to $350. All in 3 months. So
$385 to $350.
There were $350 because there's.
So that's 30% almost. That's like 28% increase in 3 months.
Great.
3 to 5 months.
Mm-hmm. But still, it's still tremendous. The average is 3%. People 3 to 4% per year is the average for Florida over the last 30 years. Is the average.
And the big thing they teach you when you're in appraising school too is although it is an opinion of value that I'm writing, but it's not I think that's crazy. I think that's off the scale. But if that's what everybody's willing to do, then that's what it's worth now. And I heard you say something about this like a month ago, Johnny, and I was going to answer, like in my head, I'm like, if 3 people are willing to, if the last 3 sales are that high, then that's what that neighborhood's worth now. And that's what your lender said, and I was like, exactly. It's the last, it depends on the volume. Like my neighborhood's not that big, but if you're in a big neighborhood, like a Sandalwood, I love looking at Sandalwoods for trends because they've got that big complex up by North Lake, just west of 95.
And you got a lot of data to chew on, a lot of high rate of sales.
it's constant. There's always dozens of sales to look at. And if you graph that, that's real easy to see what that market's doing.
Hey, I just want to, because I want to get to Ross today, because he's been so patient. And thank you, Ross. I really appreciate
I'll
it.
give you the brief and you don't have to talk insurance. This is very interesting.
Are you
Crazy right now? If you need some help and you want to get straightened out, give me a call. I'll see if we can help you. But this is pretty interesting.
Okay, well, I want to switch gears to one thing, because John, one of our big fans of the show, he brought up something I probably should have talked to you about, is the whole condo situation, because the Surfside. So what I'm wondering is, like, from an appraiser perspective, does Surfside, the issues with Surfside, do they have any impact right now? What's going on with the condo sales and appraisals? And the second question is, have you heard of anything tightening up related to, like, appraisal issues with the beachfront condos and things like that, about deferred maintenance repairs that they're not doing?
Well, and I knew this would come up, right? Because, I mean, it's certainly a local current topic. I have not had any beachfront high-rise appraisals since it happened.
Okay.
I will definitely be looking at maintenance. I'm sure it's going to be something that the underwriting is going to look at. But, you know, at the beginning of the show, I said my answer is going to be the same for everything. It depends on the market. The next high-rise condo I do, I'll be running a lot of statistical analysis. I'll be looking at, is inventory starting to build up? Has there been some value changes? But I'm just a reporter, right? I report the news. So
right. You don't make the market. Right. You don't make the market.
But I don't have an answer for you today because I just haven't had to do the analysis.
Hey, that's the right answer that we want for this show. We never blow smoke up people's butt just to have an answer. We'd rather just say, I don't know, I haven't gone through that yet. You know, that's the right answer. You know, that's what we want.
As we've talked with AJ Holman with Touchstone Real Estate Services joining us today, he's talked about how, you know, the masses, the buyers out there will dictate the marketplace, the values, the appraisals. Like it goes hand in hand. Will the communities or the counties, cities that step in and get a little bit more aggressive? Like I read last week, Boca was they were taking it on their own to be stricter with their regulation. They are way more proactive. Will that then, in your opinion, lead buyers in the condo market to that city or county, wherever, you know, whoever's controlling it, Boca specifically in this scenario? Are they going to be thinking, oh, probably a better bet, safer condos to buy, tighter regulation? So will that drive the condo market in that area because they're connected like a caboose? Does it make sense?
I mean, I hear you in theory, but again, I look backwards. I just don't know yet. You know, we could theorize, but I'm just going to be blowing smoke. I don't know.
Do you think, Jimmy D, from our perspective, a real estate side, do you think that's going to be a conscious driver?
I remember Mike Ralph from the mortgage firm called me up right after the Surfside thing happened and said to me, hey, do you really think this is going to impact the industry at all? And at first my attitude was, nah, you know, it's a one-off. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that happened, but it's a one-off. And, you know, it isn't like buildings are falling down all around us all the time. It isn't like a common thing. But then I kind of changed my mind because I started reading more and more, and it was right away they were saying they were going to this will probably be one of those Hurricane Andrew moments. Like right after Andrew hit, we had all those changes to the building code. Right. I think this is going to be one of those moments where we're going to have changes to the building codes and things like that. But I also think that there's going to be more mandates on the cities to make sure that the condo communities keep up on their deferred maintenance. And I also think they're going to create regulations that hold the condo boards more accountable for life-threatening construction issues, if you will, that if they don't deal with it in a timely manner, that they can be held legally responsible or something like that to hold people accountable so that what happened in Surfside doesn't happen anymore.
It's negligence.
But then Mike said that he thinks that there's going to be much stringent tightening of mortgages, and that instead of putting 20 or 30% down, you might have to put even more than 30% down in order to buy some of these condos of a certain age. They might require you to do that, and they might require certain types of insurance coverage and things like that with the condo community. So it can get much more restrictive. It can turn into something.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen in the insurance world, Ross, if you were to make look into a crystal ball and play predictor?
Well, I mean, that's more of a commercial insurance issue, and for that stuff, because we don't, and we do commercial insurance, but that's not our bread and butter. So, on the personal side of it, it's they're more worried about hurricanes than they are about the buildings falling down.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what they find. I mean, if they find that it was a one-off, that they built on an area that had too saturated of a structure point, or what I mean, like if it ends up to where they can show,
or like the pool leaking all that time created structural foundations. It spilled over to the building. And then you had the construction next door where there was a lot of shaking going on.
Yep.
All those factors could come into play, and they could say, hey, it was like a one-off.
Perfect storm.
If your pool was leaking and a construction was happening next door to you at the same time and all the factors lined perfectly, you might be in trouble. But it might not turn into a systemic thing. But I still think they're going to change the rules. There's no doubt in my mind. I think that the governments are going to start messing around with that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. You never want another Surfside to happen again, right? You don't want that to happen again. So it might not necessarily be bad, but when the government says, hey, we're here to help you, you always have to be a little skeptical until you see what the final results are,
I think
they get behind your back. Let me see if they can
the unknown issue as far as like the real estate part of it goes is there could be special assessments out there, because if everybody's going to have all these things inspected and they're going to have to be brought up to all the repairs, that's going to be an assessment to the current owners. But I mean, that's a complete unknown at this point. So if you're buying a new high-rise, 40-year-old high-rise condo, right now there's no assessment. But if they start to do all these inspections and they got to fix that deferred maintenance, that could be a $10,000-$15,000 assessment to everybody. That right now there's nothing there, but a year from now that could be there.
And really, people don't pay enough attention to when they're, in my opinion, buyers don't pay enough attention to how much reserves they have, how well are they funded. They look at these different condos and this one's HOA fee is only $300 a month and it's beachfront. Great. Well, yeah, but if you look back at the history, they had special assessments every year for the last 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
People don't tend to look at that as much as they should, I don't think.
Yep. I want to switch something else since we're talking about appraisals and everything, and and the real estate perspective from agents, right? Like real estate agents like Scott and I. And the people that if you're thinking of selling in the next 2 years or less, or maybe 3 years or less, and you're not sure you want to do it right now because you think it might be an inconvenience to your lifestyle or something like that, you might have kids in high school, or you're planning on retiring, but not for a couple of years, and you're holding off on selling the property for that date. One of the things I just want to explain to you about trending, and I grew up in a construction family. I might have only been doing real estate for 10 to 15 years total, including investing, but I grew up in a construction family down here, so I've been through all the crazy cycles. I remember when people were camping out for 17% interest rate in Sunrise back in the late 70s, early 80s, and hanging out like it was a rock star concert because 17% was friggin' awesome back then, right?
Right.
If you had good credit. And so I've been through all those cycles. And one of the things I want to impress upon people is we peaked around right around late between October and March, October 2005 and March 2006 is when we hit the peak, right before that great recession crash we had in Florida. And we didn't break that peak until this week when we hit 500,000 for the average sale in Palm Beach County, right? So it took us 15 years to get to that peak from 2006. Think about that. 15 years to get to that peak again. So if you're thinking of selling, and we're pretty much at I can't imagine prices going up much higher, AJ. Can you?
I don't
For
know how anybody's-
affordability, because I think affordability.
Exactly. I don't see how a waiter or anybody with a normal job is going to be able to, starting out, is going to be able to buy anything.
Yeah, so the multi-million-dollar market, that might be a little different than the rest of the market, but the middle income market and lower income market, if you will, that market, I can't see it getting much higher, because even with these tremendously low interest rates, which, by the way, 2.8% this week, only 0.09% away from the all-time record. So we're still rocking around under 3% right now, which is pretty wild. We haven't been this low since February, because our rates went up a little bit. Now we're down to 2.8. So the thing is, even with these tremendously low interest rates, we're having chronic affordability issues right now. 6 months ago, people used to be able to say, hey, I don't mind paying the extra money because I'm getting this super duper low interest rate. But then the sellers woke up and they started putting their houses at a higher and higher price because the buyers couldn't afford it at the low interest rate. And now they've caught up with that low interest rate. So there isn't any more room to say, I got extra space. It's all gobbled up, in my opinion. I mean, Scott, every day when you're giving your offers, almost all your offers are what your buyer can give. It's like maxed out, right? You're almost maxing out every offer. This is what I can give you. Please take my offer. And if they can't take it, a lot of the buyers can't even go up a penny because they're giving everything they got right now, right?
Yeah, I'm having to call up Mike and say, hey, listen, run the numbers for this buyer. Send us the spreadsheet so we know what we're looking at list price and $5,000 increments above list price. And then the last sentence is, don't forget to give me my MAL. What's my maximum allowable offer?
Yeah, we called that the Maui Wowie, IHA. I call it the Maui Wowie. Maximum allowable offer, MAL, right? So what's your Maui Wowie? Don't go past that. Stay in your budget, but you have to know what your maximum allowable offer is, so because you might have to use it, and you don't want to overextend either, right? So the thing is, the point I'm trying to make on this, 15 years to get back to where we were. Now, I'm not telling you we're going through a crash again, guys. I'm not a Chicken Little sky is falling guy. I think we're going to have to go through a correction, though. Corrections are normal, not crashes.
You always gave the best example when you talk about throwing a ball in the air, right?
Yes. And I feel like we've thrown the ball in the air and it kept going up and up and up and up and up. And there's a certain point where it just hangs in the air for a millisecond before it starts coming back down again. And I feel like we're in that millisecond moment where we're probably going to see it more likely to come down than continue going up.
Pretty close.
And the thing is that when that happens, there's going to be a retraction, and we don't know how long that retraction will be. So if you're thinking that you can sell your house, let's say that neighborhood, you can get $540,000, where 6 months ago, average sales were 380 to 400, but now you can get 540.
So
okay, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to keep my house for 2 more years because I've got this other lifestyle thing going on. Well, you have to be prepared that the house might be worth 380 to 400 again, because that's what I think is going to happen, AJ. You know what I think is going to happen? All this crazy money that we've had over the last 6 months, I bet you when we correct, we're going to go right back to where we were before all the craziness happened, which weren't bad prices. Those were still good prices back then.
Numbers. Yeah.
And I think we're going to lose a lot of that money that we're seeing right now once the interest rates get up to 5%. All that money, all that profit's going to be gone. So
to me, that's the magic crystal ball question: is when are the interest rates going to start going?
This is the point I'm trying to make. But this is the point I'm trying to make is like if you're trying to, if the maximize the money is really important to you, you might not be able to time it according to your time schedule. You might have to do something now. If it makes you an extra $25,000, $50,000, $60,000 extra, that might make you stop and say, wait a second, am I better off taking advantage of this market right now and selling it? And then either rent for the 2 years, and if the market changes, I got a ton of money in my pocket and I can take advantage of that market, but at least I maxed out at what I got now. It isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it's really important to mention that because we may never see these prices. When we started this show, The average home sale in Palm Beach County was $198,000. I checked. January 7th, 2012. 198,000 because we were still going down. We were still going down in 2012 when we started the show. It was part of the crash. But now we're at 500,000. Think about that.
Yeah.
And here's one for you,
9
Jim.
years.
The median sales price a year ago was $376.
Yeah, I was gonna start thinking like 380. Yeah.
1 year ago it was $376, and now we're at $500.
Right. So the thing is,
33% appreciation.
These prices are about as real as the 2006 price. And it took us 15 years to recover that 2006 price. That 2006 price was so bull when we were selling houses at that time. Now, not for appraiser point of view, because people were willing to do it at the time. So under the market definition, at that moment, the prices were legitimate because they were happening. Okay. But what I'm saying is, in the long run, those prices really weren't real prices. They were very much reliant upon the specific economic circumstances at that moment.
Well, like AJ said, it was like, how much can you borrow? Because you could put, they're just giving loans to everybody. So it's how much can you borrow?
Yeah.
And Dave, there's a question from one of the people on Facebook, and thank you, Dave, for checking us out. And please like our page and let other people know. But he was saying, and this is important, it's related to this. So because we got the appraiser on the phone on the show, I want to make sure we ask everything. Dave was saying, do you think that the end of the foreclosure moratorium is going to affect the prices? Now, we just had Paul Krasker on the show from the law office of Paul Krasker talking all about this stuff. And we have a playlist on our YouTube. So if you're missing mortgage payments or you're behind on your mortgage payments, you've got to go to our YouTube channel, or you can call us at the 888 number anytime you want. But if you want to just find out stuff, go to our YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist of everything you need to know if you're missing your mortgage payment. So go check that out. The programs that are available for you, what you can expect when you transition out of it, and the help that we could provide you if you need it. But what do you think is going to happen, AJ, with the foreclosure moratorium when it's lifted? What do you think is going to happen?
I have no idea. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but that's the honest answer. I mean, look at all the things that we're dealing with this time that we weren't dealing with last time. We've got the pandemic. We've got a lot of hedge funds that own property now. Airbnb is a big impact, I think, on our area. And there's a lot of investors that own property just for that purpose. That wasn't even around 15 years ago.
That's true.
Geopolitics, this country is socially more divided than I've ever seen in my life. I don't know. People ask us all the time as appraisers what we think is going to happen tomorrow. And I'm really just a lot better at telling you what happened yesterday.
Yeah, right. Exactly, right.
Jim, I think me personally, because I talk to a lot of people that, go, I know I got a ton of value in my home. I'd love to sell. I just don't know where I'm going to go. As you noted, we kind of, that sweet spot with the interest rates and the values, like you're kind of missing a lot of the gap that was there for you, the net. It's still there for some, but not for all, depending on the price points. And, so the struggle is where am I going to go for so many folks? And
yeah, I know, but I really feel that's more mythy. I think that's a little. I'm sorry, John.
Well, some think, hey, I'm gonna sell and I'm gonna rent for a year or two and then buy again when the market softens. I think the eviction moratorium is more important than the foreclosures and the forbearance, because I think if a lot of rental properties are available and vacant, I think sellers will be like, hell, I'm gonna maximize my sale and go rent that house for a year. I think that's gonna be a huge impact personally. You
I think
Jim, thoughts?
I lost you on that, Johnny. So you're saying the landlords are going to do what?
No, when the eviction moratorium's lifted and the landlords start evicting their tenants who haven't been paying, now all these rental properties are open for sellers who are like, yeah, let me maximize the sale of my property. I'll go rent that house for a year or two and get into the market again.
Oh, I see.
The inventory on the rentals is going to skyrocket.
It will. It should, at least.
Yeah, it makes sense that it could.
The other thing I think might happen is some of these landlords have been beat up so bad that it might be a perfect time for them to cash out, which, by the way, I would love to talk to any landlords that are upset with what's happening because of COVID, and that they're not – some of these poor landlords have not been paid for 15 months, 18 months. Okay. And I understand where the renters are coming from too, but most landlords, something like 80% of the rental properties in the United States are mom and pop owners. They're not the big companies that have the 300 units of building complexes. They're regular people, duplexes, triplexes, single family homes, condos. Those are the backbone of our rental market in the United States. So some of these people aren't really making a killing on it, and they're trying to make money for their retirement. Some of these landlords can walk away with so much money in their pocket compared to what they're making monthly from them, even when it was cash flowing. I just had a guy who was making $1,000 a month net for real, $1,000 a month, and that's not bad for a rental unit that's around $2,000 a month, and he's making $1,000 in his pocket. Okay. After taxes, insurance, HOA fees, the mortgage payment, everything. He's making $1,000 a month. Roof's newer, AC's newer, so he doesn't have to worry about the deferred maintenance issues, and he's got a good tenant. But if he sells his house right now, he'd be collecting the profit he would make on the home is worth 14.7 years of rent.
So it's taken 14 years to make the money by cash flow and compared to what he could cash it out and sell it for right now.
Now. So now, would you rather wait to collect your money over the 14 years and wait for the vagaries of the up and down of the market over the next 15 years? Or do you want to just cash out, like in this guy's example, he'd be making about $250,000 cash, tax-free, because it's homesteaded, right? And make $250,000 and bank it, and then he could do whatever he wants with that money, right? Now he can.
Wait, how can he homestead the property?
The guy was smart. He rented it for 9 years. There's nothing illegal here. He's such a smart guy, very smart guy. He rented it for 9 years. He bought it a long time ago, rented it for 9 years, moved in 2 years ago to prove that he has 2 of the last 5 years for homestead exemption. So he did live there he can prove that he's lived there the last 2 years. He lives there now, but he fully renovated the house during the time he lived there. So that's why he can maximize the money he can. And it would take him 14.7 years to get the money he can get right now. My attitude in that case, you got to grab the money. You just got to do it, right? Because I wouldn't want to wait for 15 years to find out what the Florida market, 15 years from now, his house could be underwater.
I mean, think about Raphael. Raphael and Al that just sold all of those investment properties in East Lake Worth. Now, those guys timed the market beautifully. I mean, they bought everything up from 2010 to 2015. So they were buying at the bottom of the market. But some of those, I mean, single family homes that I was selling for $250, they picked up for $80,000 cash, and they collected rent that entire time.
All that time.
And then they cashed out for 3 or 4 times what they paid for the house.
This next cycle, when we have this down cycle coming, that's the cycle that has the ability to make millionaires in real estate from mom and pop people and turn them into millionaires. Because I've seen this now. This will be the 3rd cycle because I've seen it happen twice. I remember in the 90s, people were picking up units out in Crest Haven and Pompano. I'm just using that as one example. Very popular investor neighborhood every time the market shifts. And they were buying stuff about 90 to 100, right? They would minimally fix them up, rent them out. They were making $500 a month on average, usually for these units. So they were collecting $6,000 a year, plus paying down the mortgage, right? And then when the market got super hot, now to them, super hot, this is during the old market of 2005, they might have 30, 40, 50 properties like you were talking about, and then they were cashing them out. So they pull the tenants out of the unit or wait for the lease to end. They put real money into the house to fix it up at that point, right? And then they put it on the market and sell it for $300 when they bought it for $80 to $90 to $100,000 10, 15 years earlier. Made all that money, put a little money into it, and then sold it and flipped it and made a lot of money on the deal. And that could happen in this next coming cycle. If you're thinking of selling and you want to sell at the peak and you don't want to be the vagaries of the market, you got to give us a call. I gave you the example of that one guy that's making a lot of money at $1,000 a month, and he decided that he's probably going to sell because the money's too good. There was another guy had the same interview. They were making so little on the profit compared to what they were making on the monthly profit from the rent. I recommended that they keep that one. That one, I was like, I'd keep it because the amount of money you're going to make isn't that much, but you're making pretty good on the rent. So I don't have a cookie cutter approach. I'm not your typical realtor that's just going to tell you what you want to hear in order to sell your house. I'm going to tell you what I think is best for you, and then you make the decision. Johnny?
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your access to the entire team, your one-stop real estate shop. Looking to buy a home, sell your home. Feel like every day I'm connecting people with Ross to check their property insurance. I got refis galore going over to Mike. We got buyers getting lined up. Scott and the team, they're closing people all the time. Get to the best of the best. Your pros, they're all in one place. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. AJ Holman with Touchstone Real Estate Services. It was great having you with us. You did so good. I think we're going to turn your mic on next time. That was phenomenal.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
You're fantastic. I hope you come on again very soon. Thank you for your time today. Have a great weekend. Scott Spainhour, enjoy your weekend as well.
Well, dude, just wanted to say to you as well, AJ, it was great to have you on as an appraiser, and really enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your week.
Ross, enjoy your weekend, my friend. Happy birthday to your little girl.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, AJ. That was part 1 of 2, hopefully, because there's a lot more information.
Yeah.
A ton more. Jimmy D, have a great weekend as well. Thank you all for being with us on Facebook, YouTube, and worldwide. And, of course, right here in our backyard. We'll be back at it next Saturday. Stick around. You got Greek and Jimothy and Joe. The locker room's next. See you next Saturday for Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
Tell your smart device to play Real Radio 92.1.